10 is the key to the harbingers. Ancient Israel was founded by God. It was blessed by God, but it turned away. It rebelled against him. It drove him out of its life. And what happened is God sent prophets to them, and he called them, warned them. And finally, he did something to shake them up as a wake-up call, and he withdrew their hedge of national protection. He lifted it up. It was temporary, but he lifted it up that an enemy struck the land and inflicted damage, traumatized the nation. But it was temporary. It was limited. They withdrew, and then there was normalcy. It was to wake them up, a wake-up call. But they did not wake up, or they chose to keep defying God. Instead of repenting, turning back to God, they became even more defiant. And they made a vow, and that vow is Isaiah 9:10. They said this: "The bricks have fallen, but we will rebuild with hewn stone. The sycamores have been cut down, but we will plant cedars in their place." And what that meant was, we're not going to be humbled. We're not going to turn back. We're going to continue away from God. In fact, we're going to come back even stronger. We're going to replace weaker things with stronger things.
It's like a defiant
Exactly.
spirit.
It's defiant. You said the commentaries on this always do that same word. They say they breathe the spirit of defiance. Exactly. So
okay, but that was ancient Israel. And why did you feel that this was a warning, a prototype, if you will, for the United States of America?
Okay, well, ancient Israel did not turn, and they were destroyed. So now we have America. America was also founded on God's word, was founded to fulfill his purposes. America has also been turning more and more rapidly away from God and his ways. God, in his mercy, calls out to a nation, and if it doesn't respond, the callings get more severe. And what happened now is the first harbinger, or the first thing that happened was the breach, was that lifting up of the national security, allowing an enemy to strike the land. A wake-up call.
You're talking about 9/11.
Well, now, yeah. That was for ages, but now God did it with America. That happened on exactly September 11, 2001. The national defense of America, the hedge was lifted up. He allowed an enemy to strike, same way, limited scope, limited time, traumatized the nation. A wake-up call. 9/11 was an alarm seeking to save America from the road it's going on.
Oh, okay. So the progressive judgments were 9 harbingers, 9 warnings. Let's talk about one, the Gazit stone.
Okay. This is what happened. If you look at the key of Isaiah 9:10, it says, "The bricks have fallen, but we will replace them with hewn stone."
What is hewn stone?
Hewn stone, yeah. In Hebrew, it's the word gazit. Gazit means cut, quarried, taken out of mountain rock. It's a strong thing. They made it into a big rectangular mass of stone. What they were saying is there was destruction and it was clay bricks, but we're going to come back stronger as a nation. So we're going to take a stronger thing. We're going to build higher and bigger and better. So what they did is they took these gazit stones, they went to the quarries of the mountains, cut it out, brought it back to the ground of destruction where the bricks had fallen, and there they vowed, with this, we're going to rebuild the nation. Okay, a sign of defiance.
Okay, that's Israel. What about America?
Well, that's the thing. This is what happened. I mean, after 9/11 in New York, they went to the mountains. They quarried out a rock, a 20-ton rectangular block. According to the harbinger, it has to be brought back to the ground of destruction. They bring it to New York City, bring it to ground zero, place it on the pavement of ground zero. They have a ceremony around the stone. They have leaders there, Governor of New York, Governor of New Jersey, the mayor. They pronounce vows of defiance over the stone. They said, with this stone, America's going to come back stronger than ever. We're going to rebuild. In fact, you said the spirit of defiance. That's what the commentaries say about this. The governor of New York actually says, we are the heirs of the spirit of defiance as we lay this stone.
And he used the word defiance?
He used not just defiance, he used the word spirit of defiance. He said, we are spirit of defiance. You see this over and over again.
Now, Jonathan, there's a mystery about the trees. Explain that to me.
The key in Isaiah 9:10 says, the next part of it says, the sycamores have been cut down. Now, what is that? The Assyrians came in, that warning strike, they ravaged the land, the sycamores were ravaged, and it's a biblical sign of judgment, because actually it occurs in Egypt. There's a psalm that says God struck down the sycamore, national judgment, a sign of uprooting. God was going to uproot the nation if it didn't turn back to him. So the sycamores have fallen, but what does that have to do with America? First of all, the terrorists of 9/11 weren't interested in sycamores. They struck cities, not fields. So the sycamore has to be struck down, sign of national judgment. So what happens? Amazing, eerie thing. On 9/11, the last tower, the northern tower, as it's crashing to the ground, sends out a beam into the air, and it just so happens all around ground zero, there's concrete, asphalt buildings, but there's one little plot of land that has soil. and growing, it strikes an object. The object is a tree. What kind of tree? It's the sycamore. The sycamore just happened to be growing at the corner of Ground Zero, is struck down, the sign of national judgment. But how? How could...
From the wreckage, something fell from the tower.
It shoots it across.
Which is a sign of national judgment.
Yes, absolutely. And yeah, and you say, well, how could? Well, first of all, this was the sycamore of Israel was the Middle Eastern sycamore. It matched Israel, but God translated the harbinger. This is the Western sycamore, which is named after that very Middle Eastern sycamore of 9/11 of Isaiah 9:10, happens to be struck down right at the corner of Ground Zero. And the people, there's something strange about the harbingers. They make signs of them. They take the fallen sycamore and they make it a sign, and they call it the sycamore of Ground Zero. People gather, they put it on display, and they have no idea. It's supposed to be a symbol of hope. They have no idea this is an ancient harbinger of judgment of a nation, of uprooting, if it doesn't turn back to God.
Tell me the second tree.
Okay, you go on right, it's like in progression, precisely, down the prophecy. It says, the sycamores have fallen, but Israel vows, we will plant cedars in their place. Same thing as the stone. They're saying, okay, you struck down our sycamores, God, we're not going to be humbled. We're going to take a stronger tree, the cedar, and we're going to rise like that tree. It's going to be a symbol of the nation. We're going to come back stronger than ever. So they will. The sign is, the harbinger is, they plant the cedar, except the cedar, the word, of course, is English. The original word is the erez tree. Erez. Erez means cedar, but it also means any conifer tree, a coniferous tree. Literally, the most exact translation is panacea tree. So just keep that in mind. The harbinger has to be, they have to take the sycamore out and replace it, not with another sycamore, which would be natural, but with a panacea tree or an erez tree. So would this happen? A strange thing. In 2003, November, a tree appears in the sky. It's on a crane. They are lowering it down to get an exact spot. They lower it over the corner of Ground Zero to get it in the exact spot where the sycamore had been struck down. What was the tree? It was a conifer tree. It was a panacea tree. It was the exact erez tree of the scriptures of Isaiah 9:10. And the same thing, they make it a sign. They call it the tree of hope. For Israel, they're saying, this is our hope. We're going to come back stronger than ever. Call it a tree of hope. They gather, have a ceremony around it. A man pronounces things over it, and it celebrates human defiance. And it's the exact harbinger. They don't know what they're doing, but nobody knows what they're doing. No human hand is putting this together. I mean, the terrorists didn't try to strike down a sycamore, nor did they try to put match this up. But it all comes into place. It's the replaying of the ancient drama of judgment.
Okay, now tell me about a third tree, the buttonwood tree.
Okay, well, okay, here's the principle. God says when there's a judgment for a nation, he says, I will expose its foundations, kind of like destroying a house to the foundation. What are the foundations of a nation? The foundations of a nation are what it trusts in, or what it was built upon, or its powers. America's powers, physically, are military and economic or financial. So if we're going to see this, then we're going to see a mystery here that in 9/11 it exposes America's foundation. So where was America's financial foundation? Well, island of Manhattan, it's always been the center. That's where they had a trading post.
Of course.
They set up a wall to defend themselves. They put up shops. It became known as Wall Street. But how did Wall Street become the the foundation of America's rise as a superpower? It happened in the late 18th century. 24 merchants from New York City gather in a secret meeting. Then from that meeting, they sign a document. That becomes the Buttonwood Association. Buttonwood Association later becomes known as the New York Stock Exchange, Wall Street. So the foundation of America's power in economic is all linked to this word buttonwood. So what is this buttonwood? What does that have to do with? Buttonwood stands for a tree. And it was a tree. Why? Because there was a tree that stood in Wall Street that they did their business. They signed the document under. So the foundation of American power in finance is linked to this buttonwood. And many people in Wall Street know this. So what kind of tree was it? It was the sycamore, the same as the sixth harbinger that was struck down on 9/11. This was the symbol of the striking down of the financial power of America. And not only that, signs appear. They make this bronze statue of the fallen sycamore, of the roots, a symbol of uprootedness, and they place it not on Ground Zero, they place it on Wall Street. So now on the place that is the foundation of America, of its power financially, on the place that was symbolized by a sycamore tree living, the rise of America, now is a symbol of a dead, uprooted sycamore tree struck down by 9/11, the sign, I will expose its foundations. If America does not turn back, America will lose its financial place in the world.
Progressive judgments.
Here's what happened. Amazing. On the third anniversary of 9/11, this is September 11th, 2004, in the capital city, Washington, before at a public setting, the vice presidential candidate for the office, the Democratic ticket, he rises up.
This is John Edwards.
This is John Edwards. Okay. He rises up and he begins a speech. He's supposed to be talking about 9/11 and he thinks it's going to be inspiring. And this is what he says. Today, on this day of remembrance and mourning, we have the Lord's word to get us through. Then he says it. The bricks have fallen, but we will rebuild with dressed stones. The sycamores have been cut down, but we will put cedars in their place. He actually gives the vow of judgment on a nation. He doesn't know what he's doing, but he's actually pronouncing judgment.
So it's like a replay of what happened in ancient Israel is happening in the United States.
It's exactly. And out of 30,000 scriptures, you know, that you choose from for inspiring, you don't choose this one. And in fact, people don't even know this one. He says it. This is the vow that pronounces judgment, and it's identifying America as the nation under judgment, turning away from God. And he doesn't only do that. He builds his whole speech around this. He goes on to say, we are putting cedars up. We are speaking favorably. We are putting up the stones, and those cedars shall rise where those. He goes on and on. The whole speech is Isaiah 9:10, and he has no idea. He's speaking figuratively. He has no idea. Actually, there was a tree that the sycamore. There actually was this. All these things happened. He has no idea.
He's being a prophet and doesn't realize it. But it's a prophet of judgment. And what I find interesting is, shortly thereafter, he fell into disgrace. Now, there was a second vow.
Yes. Now, the other harbinger, well, this is the vow, is also a prophecy. It's spoken before these things happen. It says, we will do this. So Israel said it before it would happen. Also becomes a matter of national record through Isaiah. It becomes part of Isaiah. So for this to happen, same thing. It's got to be a leader, capital city, but spoken before these things happen. In other words, right soon after the event, and it becomes a matter of national record. It speaks prophetically. So could this have happened? Amazing. On the day after 9/11, the very day, that morning, America has to give its response to the world. So this is really significant prophetically. America has to, this is the response of America to this judgment or this calamity. So what happens? The man appointed to do this is the Senate Majority Leader, the head of the Senate. Senate represents the nation, and he is Tom Daschle. And he is to come up and do, he's the man appointed. He gives the thing, and he gives a speech, and here's what happens. Bizarre, ominous, eerie, and profound. At the end of the speech, he closes with this pinnacle. He says, I know there's only the smallest measure of inspiration that can be taken from this devastation, but I think there is a passage in the Bible from Isaiah that I think speaks to all of us at times.
Of all the scriptures, he picks that one.
Amazing. I mean, and then he says it from the Capitol Hill, from the floor of the Senate, national record. The bricks have fallen down, but we will rebuild with dressed stones. Fig trees have been felled, but we will replace them with cedars. And then he goes on. So he's actually, the very day after, pronouncing judgment, linking it all together to ancient Israel. And then he goes on to say, it's not just Israel, it's our vow now. He says, that is what we, America, will do. In other words, this is going to be American policy. We will rebuild. We will recover. He is speaking prophetically. He has no idea that there actually is a tree that day that was just found. He has no idea that years later, all these things he says are actually going to happen at ground zero. He's predicting that America, he's prophesying that America is going to go the course of defiance as ancient Israel. He's setting a course without realizing.
So John Edwards does this.
Yes.
He shortly falls, almost a prophetic sign. Tom Daschle then fell into disgrace when he was asked to be part of the cabinet, if you remember.
Yes. Yeah.
But here's the amazing thing to me. President Barack Obama knows nothing about any of this. But President Barack Obama is also involved in this vow of national defiance. And Jonathan, you told me that there is even a key, a mystery, if you will, to the economic judgment that will hit America as part of the progressive judgments that are occurring.
Is hitting, that the harbingers, this is not the end, this is the beginning, because the harbingers are going to touch everything. They're going to touch the American economy. They're going to touch the world economy. They're going to actually determine the exact days when these calamities are going to happen. And it's amazing. It's going to touch in fact, it is already touching everyone listening. And every American and their bank account and everything else is in an ancient mystery.
Next week, you will understand